Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We do certainly appreciate your time and attention this afternoon, so thank you. My name is Tim Leduc. I'm an account executive here at PairSoft. Been here almost 3 years now. With us today, I've got Tammy Bauer. She's our solutions consultant. Been with the company for 17 years now, so wealth of knowledge. So thank you, Tammy. And we're here to kind of talk through a couple of things today. We want to show you about our solution as it relates to NetSuite and how we integrate with that. And we're here to show you the top 5 features for today's sake. And then we'll show you what that product looks like and how it can help you. And then we'll kind of end today with some Q&A and kind of next steps. A little bit about PairSoft and DocuPeak. Because DocuPeak's been around since 2008, PairSoft as a brand is a little bit more recent, so I wanted to shed a little bit of light on that. In 2021, DocuPeak, as well as 3 other companies, were merged to form PairSoft. So as you're Googling AP automation platforms and the like, you might see, DocuPeak's been around a long, long time. PairSoft is fairly new, but in reality, the DocuPeak since 2008, and then we've merged with a company called PaperSave, which has been around the AP automation space for over 20 years, as well as the requisitions product that's also been around for 20 years. So with that being said, there's a lot of knowledge in the AP automation space and document management solutions as well. So we're not going anywhere, and we're continuing to add functionality and the like. So we're super excited to share with you a couple of those features here this afternoon. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Tammy. And again, as she's kind of doing the show and tell today, certainly keep in mind what you want to ask toward the end. You can put it in the chat, or we can get back to you post webinar. So Tammy, take it away. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Tim. We're going to talk about and demonstrate 5 features for success. These are key areas that we believe really sets DocuPeak apart from not only other AP automation tools, but also what NetSuite offers. So while NetSuite is a great, if you're using it, it's a great accounting tool, but we are actually a document management workflow and automation tool that is thoroughly embedded, integrated throughout NetSuite. So the first thing I like to talk about, I used to be an AP processor many years ago. And one of the tools that, when you're typing and keying in AP transactions with inside of your accounting system, there are a lot of defaults that happen. Well, because of DocuPeak's tight integration, we also pull in those defaults. So when you in DocuPeak, you don't even have to key in the vendor name because we do OCR, optical character recognition. So when those documents, those invoices are brought in, a lot of the data entry is already done for you. And when we find that vendor and match that vendor to a valid vendor record with inside of NetSuite, all of those defaults start pulling in, whether it's the terms and when they need to be paid, how they get paid, what their currency is. Also fields like default distribution. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you what I mean by that. And we're going to kind of be going back and forth between a PowerPoint presentation and the actual software. So when I tell you that, and I've mentioned it, that we are embedded, we are part of the NetSuite market, so you can get DocuPeak right from there. And we are truly embedded, integrated throughout. So DocuPeak becomes a tab or navigation across the toolbars within inside of NetSuite. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to click on DocuPeak, and it's going to first give me a list. As an accounts payable admin, it's going to give me a list of all of the invoices that are waiting for processing. And you'll notice that within this list, all of the data actually is populated. And how does that happen? Well, I'm going to open up one. I already have it open here. We do, again, do that OCR, optical character recognition. So right now, if you're manually keying data into those invoice transactions inside of NetSuite, you're not going to have to do that when you have DocuPeak. we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that for you. And as I mentioned, as we find the vendor and validate it against your data, your vendor records inside of NetSuite, we start populating. In this case, we populated the due date based on the terms pulled from the vendor record. Now, if there are different due dates or different terms on this specific invoice, or maybe they're offering an early pay discount, you certainly have the ability to override those as well. But we're going to be on this screen a little bit more later, but I wanted to just show you very quickly how you can eliminate all of that data entry by utilizing the defaults, or how we utilize the defaults with inside of DocuPeak, or inside of NetSuite that are pulled into DocuPeak. All right. So that's the first benefit that we see, leveraging all of that data, right? In addition to that, we also, not just regular invoices, but we also are fully integrated with the PO module with inside of NetSuite. So when you receive an invoice that is PO related, guess what? We're going out there and we're going to pull in those line items of all of the items that have been received for that PO. We also can have a tolerance levels, that's the word I'm looking for, based on dollar amounts and percentages on whether or not the individual who's processing that invoice has the ability to go in and override that, make changes, or maybe it has to go out for approval. So you don't have to do that manual match. DocuPeak is going to do that for you. So let's go back out to that screen here, and I'm going to scroll down. These are just so that you know what we're looking at. I had typed on or clicked on this tab here. It opened up my AP inbox. Now, if I expand this, I also can see where invoices are that are pending approvals, or invoices that have come in that are PO related that might be pending receipts, things like that. This is what I'm looking at. I always know as accounts payable where those items are in the process of being approved. But let's go down here to I have Iron Horse. Let's go down here. This is a PO related, and you can see when it comes in, we've captured all of this data, and we're also giving you information here that, hey, this is pending billing and it's been partially received. So you're going to know, well, this invoice has come in, it's related to a PO number, and it's been partially received already inside of NetSuite. So that means that you're going to be able to go in and process it. But what happens again with that OCR, we are looking for a PO number. When we find the PO number on the invoice, we're validating that against the data inside of NetSuite, and we're pulling in the line items of those items from the PO that have been received. So if you're doing a three-way match, or we do two-way matches as well, but this is a three-way match saying, hey, there's a PO, these are the items that have been received, and here they are. So in this case, this PO has received these line items. Now, there might be many other line items on that PO that have yet to be received, and that's why it said partially received. So we know that there's at least one more line item on that PO in NetSuite that has yet to be received. But I can say, all right, this looks good, let's pay it. But I also noticed that, hey, the dollar amount here doesn't match. The line items don't match the dollar amount. So what's really happened? Well, the shipping hasn't been captured. You can tell you can tell DocuPeak where to find certain information and where to capture it, so that when an invoice comes in and it needs to capture in this case, the freight, all I have to do is type it in there, and then the next time a horse bicycle invoice comes in, guess what? It's going to know exactly where to capture that data and bring it in. Now, invoices might come in for less or more than what has been received, right? You always have the ability to come in here and modify this. So this one happens to match, but let's say that the invoice was only for 50 bicycles. Well, I could come in this line item and I could make that change. And because it's less, Remember, we can talk about variances and tolerances for PO processing, PO invoice processing. If this is below, most likely I'm going to be able to process it and submit it right into NetSuite and create that invoice transaction. It goes in and it updates the line items for that PO. It's going to close out the one for 150 bikes, but it's going to leave open a line item for the freestyle bikes, saying that there's still 200 that need to be invoiced against. So again, we are constantly communicating with NetSuite to make sure that the data that's being brought in is reflective of what should be on the invoice. Now, let's say that the invoice came in for 300 bikes and this was 250. We were talking about those tolerances, right? Well, I might only have, as the accounts payable admin, I might only have the ability to override something that is within 5% or $100, right? Because 5% of 50 is much different than 5% of 5,000. So I might have a dollar amount and a percentage variance that I can change. So in this case, if I go in here, I can't change this to 300 because it's going to not be within my variance. So in that case, what I'll need to do is I'll have to send it out for approval. Again, we have workflows. People who are participating in workflows don't have to be users of NetSuite. They can do all of that outside in DocuPeak. That's a bonus feature that we offer. It's not part of today's presentation, but it is something that we do offer. So you can set those up based on individual, based on type of invoice, dollar amount, percentage. So I think that that's important to know, so that you can actually, again, bring in those business rules and make sure that they're being followed and things aren't being entered into the system without the proper authority. All right. So those are those PO exceptions and how they can be processed. The next one is coding templates. So again, when you talk about PO related, all of that is done. Now there might be an expense that you can that you have to add to a line item for a PO related invoice. Now, obviously, we take into consideration of capturing that freight and the tax, but there might be, I don't know, handling, right, or packaging. And so you need to be able to fill in an expense line on a PO. On those non-PO related invoices, you guys know your invoices and as they come in, right? You know where they need to be coded. A lot of times there are defaults on the vendor record. Again, we can pull those in. But let's say it's a supply vendor, and you always distribute that evenly across all of your departments or locations or jobs or whatever the distribution might be. Well, instead of having to key all of that in, you can have the templates so that you hit a button and DocuPeak's automatically going to disperse that across that templated amount or coding areas. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open up this Liberty. Let's go back to the Liberty one. Come back to, whoops, sorry. Let's go back out to my screen here and we'll open up Liberty. We're going to just continue to pick on Liberty here. So this is where we can come in and offer these templates, and you can set up as many templates as you want. This template, I think I have a handful of them here. I have got a template for air gas. So if air gas always gets the same distribution, I can click on air gas and it's going to automatically pull it in. I could also have a vendor type distribution. So I mentioned supplies, or I mentioned I mentioned maybe services, legal fees. You might use different legal entities or vendors, but you're always distributing them across your jobs a specific way. So simply by clicking on one of these, you'll notice that all of this distribution pops in, right? Now, my dollar amounts are blank, but you can certainly have it fill in, again, based on the dollar amount of the invoice evenly across all of these distribution areas or lines, or by percentage. So that can be done. And again, you can have as many of these as you want, and simply by clicking on that down arrow, it will give you your list, and you can choose the template that you'd like, and it's going to automatically populate that. Now, in addition to the distribution, you also have what we call the magic wand here. So maybe you don't have a template for every vendor, and I would recommend that you don't, right? So let's say that you always get Liberty Utilities. You don't have a default setup on the vendor record, and you just want to use the last distribution for this particular vendor. All I do is hit this magic wand. It's going to come in here. It's going to fill that in. And again, you can have that dollar amount automatically populated. In my case, I would come in here and I'd fill that dollar amount in for $123 or whatever it was, right? So there's different ways that coding can happen. Again, when we think about what we offer, there's 3 different ways that you can do this coding based on defaults from the record inside of NetSuite, the templates to automatically disperse it across a specific group of departments or locations, or remember what I did last time and hit that magic button, magic wand, and it comes in. So that really helps in streamlining the data entry, right? Not having to put all of that in manually. All right. Just checking the time here. Have 2 more to get through. So I want to make sure we leave time also for Q&A. All right, the 4th one, escalation emails. So not sure what your process is, but being around the industry for as long as I have, if you are currently doing things manually, and when I say manually, I mean, let's say that you have, you might have automation around bringing the invoices to a central email, but you're still manually emailing things out as attachments for approval, right? Or listen, you might have a folder out on the network drive that is for everybody, and they go in and they, approve their invoices from a folder out on the network drive, right? So that's semi-automated. You at least aren't passing paper around. But if you are passing paper around, it's up to you to remember where you sent things, who you need to follow up on, what you haven't gotten back, when they're due, all of that. Well, you can set escalation emails to automatically remind people that says, hey, this has been sitting in your queue, your DocuPeak queue, because everything's going to be electronic now, right? This has been sitting in your DocuPeak queue for 5 days. Please go in there and approve it, right? And that email looks similar to this. This isn't the exact email, but anyone who plays a role with inside of DocuPeak's workflow is going to start getting these reminders that let them know, hey, you've got these invoices. They've been sitting in there X number of days, or maybe X number of days before a due date. Now, keep in mind, I showed you earlier that breakdown of folders. I can always see what's out there waiting for approval, right? But this is that reminder to them to get in there. And you don't have to be, or your AP team doesn't have to be the people who do that reminding. They've got other things to do than stay on top of somebody to approve an invoice, right? There are more important things. So I don't have anything in the system to show this, but this is an email that goes out. It's as simple as if they are a NetSuite user, they can access DocuPeak right from NetSuite, and they would click on this click here button, and it would open up their queue, their list of documents. If they're not a NetSuite user, which again is an important thing, you probably have a lot of people who approve invoices and you don't want to have a license for NetSuite for them. You don't when you have DocuPeak, right? They would click on, or they would only have this line here to click on. And again, it's going to open up their list of documents for approval. So again, taking away that responsibility of accounting having to remind people, but always remember accounting is going to have the ability to know who has what. In fact, I am going to toggle over here really quick, because one of the reports that we have in terms of DocuPeak, excuse me, is this aging report, right? So I can come in here, approver aging, and I can see who owns what, how many days out. And of course, Nate is my approver I use all the time. So he is really delinquent. He's got 51 that are 50 or 28 plus days out. So he'd get a big slap on the hand, but you're always going to know where those documents are. All right. All right, let's go back to the slide deck. All right. payment information. So a lot of times individuals who aren't DocuPeak users always want to know, hey, what's been paid? And they're constantly reaching out to the individuals in the accounting to find out where those documents are, have they been paid? Or when I say documents, I mean invoices. Have they been paid? When were they paid? And they can now do this themselves. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to log in as Nate here. And again, he's not a NetSuite user. He's a DocuPeak user. So he comes in, and again, this is kind of his list of invoices that he has. He's going to go in here. I can do a search. Now you're going to see that I don't have many things paid, but they're going to be able to see things that have been paid, when they've been paid. They can do a search on payment and check information by creating a search. You can also see that again from this page here inside of the NetSuite user. I'm going to be able to see things that have been paid, what the check date is, and do that search. And I'll do a search in just a second. But this is going to give you that immediate information that you need on the items that have been paid. And it's going to eliminate a lot of the inquiries. If they can do it themselves from their user in DocuPeak and see what's been paid and when, they're not going to be bothering the accounting team for that piece of information all the time. So again, just another area that we're going to free up for your AP team to give them time to do other things within their job duties, right? All right. I said 5, but I always do an honorable mention because searching and finding documents is really important, especially at audit time. And so I'm going to go back into that search screen that I was just at, and you're going to be able to find documents. I didn't go into it, but you can navigate right to a transaction with inside a NetSuite if you're a NetSuite user and find a document. We're right there at the transaction level. There'll be a document tab or along the toolbar, and you'll be able to drill into that document. But most often, searches are needed. Somebody wants to see all of the invoices for a certain vendor for a certain date range. Well, we're going to be able to do that, or you're going to be able to do that simply by coming in here and choosing what you want to see. So I like to look at the folders. The folders are based on where the document lies within the process. So anything that's in the NetSuite folder, that means it's already gone through the approval process with inside a DocuPeak. It's been approved, and the transaction's been created inside of NetSuite. So I'm going to say, give me anything that's equal to the NetSuite folder. I also maybe want to find all of the dollar amounts. Give me all of the invoices that are greater than, less than, equal to, starts with, let's say $500. I might want to look at date range. I might want to look at currency. I might want to look at a memo, payment date, terms. I have a ton of fields that I can search for, but we're just going to look at this dollar amount here and completed. So quickly, all I did was hit search, and now I've got a list of all of the invoices that have gone through the approval process that have been now pushed into NetSuite. And if I wanted to see them, all I have to do is click on it, and I can go through them kind of like a slideshow, right? For me, I can see that this one's been approved. When was it approved? Who processed it? So I sent it over to Nate back in May of 22. Nate approved it, and this is the information that created the transaction inside of NetSuite. And I can, again, just keep flipping through them like a slide deck, right? Or again, if somebody wants to see these, I can export it out into an export file so that, again, giving the auditors the ability to see the documents. They don't have to be NetSuite users, right? They just need to be set up as a DocuPeak user so they can see all of that transactional information. Has it been paid? Who's approved it? Where was it coded? All of that good stuff. So this search capability, yes, you can navigate to a transaction and see a document, but typically this is where the power is behind getting all of those documents together so that you can now manage them, share them, flip through them, see who's approved them, and all of that pertinent information. All right, so let's go back to the slide deck. I know that that was a lot of information in about 25 minutes. We want to open it up and spend the next at least 3 or 4 minutes answering questions. So Tim, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Tammy. Great job as always. We do have several questions. A couple of them could be quick hitters. Is there any human intervention after OCR scans and populates the invoice?
There can be, yes. It doesn't have to be, but typically what we have found over the years, we always pull best practices from our customers. So typically they do like to have somebody at least validate the information, right? In that list of AP review, you can really see anything that has been missed by OCR there, if the invoice date wasn't found, right? That column would be blank for that line item. You could click in it and just very quickly identify that information and fill it in. So there doesn't have to be somebody intervening, but what we do find is that accounting teams like that. So
yeah, so it's configurable an item.
it is, definitely.
All right, next one. How do users without NetSuite licenses access DocuPeak and manage the bills they need to approve?
Yep. So again, going back to that email, they're going to have an email that they'll be able to click on, or if I bring this screen up one more time here, DocuPeak for an individual can be a shortcut on their browser. So when I clicked on this, when I clicked on this, this was the first thing that I saw, and I'm playing Nate right now. I logged in as Nate Gilbert. He's not a NetSuite user. He got an email. He might have clicked on that hyperlink, or he opened up his browser. He clicked on DocuPeak and he typed in his username and password. This is the information that is housed that says, he's got this many invoices to approve. He can filter them, go in. Again, if I'm looking at this one, I'm going to click on this one right here, open it up. He's going to see that. And at this point, either hit approve, reject. You might give him reasons or the ability to put in coding. Again, this kind of is up to you. There's a lot of configuration around approval process. I didn't even cover that in this demo, but that's how they would get to the documents. Either go right to their browser and log in, or click on that hyperlink in the reminder email to get to their list.
Fantastic. All right, one more and then we'll close it down. Can we load coding via CSV files for invoices awaiting coding?
Currently, we can't you can't import that information through the templates. You could set that up one time in the templates. If it's something that's reoccurring, again, that's where we would suggest that you go, or you could do that magic wand and it would bring in what happened last time. But importing a CSV, we might be able to do that to create a template. I can check on that, but to actually populate those, the distribution table, we can't do that currently.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you so much, Tammy. Always a pleasure. We did get several other questions from you guys, so we appreciate that. We can get back to those directly to you just via your email. What we're going to do, just as far as how the process could work, if you'd like a tailored demo, we're going to have Joseph Hurt reach out to you guys to inquire on if that's something that you're interested in. And then inevitably what ends up happening is we set up a quick 15-minute kind of what we call a discovery call with you. Allows us to just ask a couple of clarifying questions, and it kind of helps, Tammy prepare a tailored demo for you. Are you doing two-way matching, three-way matching, that sort of thing. So it's a quick 15-minute call with me, and then we can go straight to a 1 hour or longer demo with Tammy to really go deeper into the product. So pretty simple process as far as that goes. We're super appreciative of everyone's time. And if this recording is of interest to you, we can certainly get that to you as well. Again, thank you, everyone. Hope to hear from you again, and enjoy the rest of the week. And again, thank you very much. We'll be in touch soon.